Hello world, I am Super AI from superai.pl. And this is my 4th Python trading tutorial. In this tutorial we'll learn how to create a trading bot which might use 6 technical indicators and 8 candlestick patterns in its trading strategy. To make the bot run you will only need to change 2 lines of code. We'll backtest the strategy and run the bot with live paper trading account both for crypto and stock. We'll even create a strategy with 100% win rate. For a while, but all in time. Now, before we start coding we'll prepare our environment to be able to do it. I'll show you here in fast forward how you can download Anaconda. Create a new environment for backtesting and trading. Start Jupyter Notebook. Download all the necessary libraries, etc. So, here we go. You can download Anaconda for free from their website. For Windows, Mac or Linux. Pick the one you like. I recommend creating virtual environment in Anaconda for the project. You can do it with one simple click. We'll need CMD prompt and Jupyter Notebook. So check if they are installed in your environment and if they are not, install them. If you don't know how to do it you can go to my previous tutorials and see how you can do it. But it's rather simple. With Jupyter you can start your adventure. You can create a file or open an existing one to run and start working. Here you can see all the steps we'll make during this tutorial. Now you just need to sign up and log into your Alpaca. You can do it for free and go to your paper account and you are ready to code. Just one more usual thing before we start coding. This bot is created for educational purposes. It uses paper account to trade, does not use real money. And this tutorial is not a financial advice for you, just a short programming tutorial. And that being said, let's start. At first we create 2 variables with keys to Alpaca account. If you don't have them already in a file, you can generate them, or regenerate in your paper account. Or you can reset your account as I do here and generate new keys. These keys are the only 2 things you need to make this bot work. The 2 lines with keys are the only 2 you need to change. Now, before we go further, if you are new to Jupyter, know that it has helpful keyboard shortcuts you can use. I find Shift+Enter that runs the cell especially useful. And now let's go back to coding. Now we will choose an asset to trade. We can choose crypto or stock. In this cell at the moment we are choosing Bitcoin cryptocurrency. In the same cell we have commented out Apple stock. If we were to uncomment it, our bot would be trading Apple. But for now we'll work with Bitcoin. At Alpaca's site you can learn which crypto they currently support. As you can see we declare here 3 variables. The asset, Bitcoin, asset type, crypto, and rounding, number of decimal places we use in trading orders. That's because according to Alpaca, all cryptocurrency assets are fractionable. But the supported decimal points vary depending on the cryptocurrency. At Alpaca's site, you can check the smallest quantity of the crypto you want to trade before declaring the rounding. After declaring the asset to trade we can go to the most important, I think, part of the bot, its brain with a trading strategy. Here you can declare which technical indicators and candlestick patterns you want to use as signals to buy and sell stocks. You have trend indicators, EMA, exponential moving average, MACD, moving average convergence divergence, momentum indicators, RSI, relative strength index, Stoch, stochastic, volatility, BB, Bollinger Bands, volume, MFI, money flow index, buy candle patterns, hammer, morning star, 3 white soldiers, sell candle patterns, shooting star, evening star, 3 black crows, buy, sell candle patterns, engulfing bullish, bearish, and 3 outside up, down. With these indicators and candlestick patterns, you can create very simple and very complex strategies. Couple of them you'll see in our bot. The initial logic of the bot is to buy if it's between declared buying hours and both fast MA is less than slow MA, and RSI is less than RSI oversold threshold. OR last close price is less than BB low. OR MFI is less than MFI oversold threshold. OR at least 1 candlestick pattern signals to buy, and you don't get signal to sell from the following selling logic. Sell if it's between declared forced selling hours. OR RSI is bigger than RSI overbought threshold. OR last close price is bigger than BB high. OR MFI is bigger than MFI underscore overbought threshold. OR at least 1 candlestick pattern signals to sell. Now we convert our pseudocode to real Python code. We create a function called createSignal. The function will get a bunch of parameters regarding the prices and volume, the declared time to buy and to sell, all the indicators, and candlestick patterns. Here you have all of them and in a moment you'll see how they were generated. Now we can create the buy signal. We'll call it SuperAI signal by and declare the logic we've seen previously. Okay, actually in here you can see much more parameters than we use in our initial logic. But most of them are commented out. It might look a bit overwhelming, but just give it a second, and you'll see that it's not scary at all. We'll get to it in a second. Anyway, what is important here at first is that, when you decide to create a new logic like that, you must check the parentheses. They are crucial to make it work properly. In Anaconda you can place the cursor next to the parenthesis, and see where it starts and ends. Use that if you get lost. Or maybe at first use far less parameters and don't bother with all the parentheses. Now, let's go back to the commented things. As you probably know, in Python usually everything that is after a hash is a comment, and is not analyzed further by the program. We have all of that here, so we can simply change our logic just by uncommenting it. You can comment out something and uncomment it and thus change the strategy for your bot. By the end of this tutorial we'll see if the strategy with all these parameters will work. But for now we'll stay with the initial strategy. So, that's our buying logic that will give us signals to buy or to do nothing. And now we can create final trade signal. We'll call it SuperAI signal and again use NumPy where function. np.where, to calculate the signal. We'll get a sell signal if the condition for sell time is met. Or if RSI is bigger than RSI exit threshold. Or close price is bigger than higher Bollinger Band. Or MFI is bigger than MFI exit threshold. We have our LOF of commented things here that we won't check in the initial logic. But we'll check if any of Candlestick Patterns signals it's time to sell. And that is our initial logic. Our create signal function will return us a SuperAI signal. The signal will tell the bot to buy, +1, sell, -1, or do nothing, 0. -1 will be assigned if the aforementioned sell logic will be met. If it won't be met, the signal from SuperAI signal buy will be assigned 1 or 0. Now, there is one more important thing in this cell. That is a decorator for the create signal function. This njit decorator might help calculate signal faster, and it might be helpful sometimes. But it requires number library that might cause some problems if you install it. So it's commented out here, but if you decide to install number you might uncomment it. So now we can check one more time if everything is correct. And run the cell that will become our bot's brain. The next thing is to declare parameters for taking profit and stopping loss. They will be used no matter the trading signal. They are declared as a percentage of an average entry price. Now we'll create a function that will help us declare time for buying, selling, forced selling and doing nothing. If we are trading stocks we'll use standard trading hours between 9:30 and 4 p.m. For crypto we can declare whatever hours we want. We can also declare here the time when we don't want to buy. It's also more useful for stocks, when we don't want to enter the market 5 minutes before it's closing, nor just after it opened. We can also declare if we want to sell before market closes or day ends. For crypto it might not be as important, but it's up to you whether you want to hold on to stocks or crypto from one day to another. The function will return 8 variables as seen here, and they will be used both in our backtesting and for the live trading bot. Now, as you probably know, some trading strategies are comparing the situation from last minute or last day to the situation from a minute, a day before, or 2, 3 minutes, days before. That's why we create here the helper function called shifted. This function will help us shift the data we have by some time, and make it easier for our bot to compare the required conditions or prices. This will be very helpful for all the strategies when we want to buy or sell, only exactly after one parameter crossed over or under the other, like when close price just crossed over the moving average, or to check if our moving average at the moment is higher than it was 2 minutes ago, and the one from 2 minutes ago was higher than the one from 4 minutes ago. So we know that the moving average is going up, etc. And now we'll create some variables with basic parameters for our technical indicators. They are the parameters that are usually used for these indicators, although our bot will be trading with 1-minute intervals, so they might not be the best, but we'll use them anyway for now. And in just a couple of minutes we'll try to optimize these parameters for us. But for now we need the starters. So we declare the parameters. We assign them to the variables we'll be using during optimization. And we also assign them to the variables that are the best at the moment, but will change after the optimization. Now we can install all the libraries, packages and modules we need and don't have. If you already have them installed, you don't have to do it again. But you might want to upgrade them. Anyway, first we'll start with Alpaca-trade-api. I already have it installed, so I'll see that the requirements are already satisfied. You might see that the library is being installed. Then we install NumPy for general calculations, pandas for the data frames, plotly for creating plots, and TA-library for calculating technical indicators. Now, in this tutorial we are using 2 libraries for technical indicators and candlestick patterns. The first one, called TA, we've already easily installed, and with the second one, called TA-lib. If you are using Windows, you might need some alternative method of installing with Conda. To install TA-lib with Conda, you just have to go to Anaconda Navigator in your environment. Start CMD and type the command you see here. I think you'll install it smoothly. I believe in you. You can also check the website of this library to read more about installing it. I won't be installing or upgrading it again in order not mess with my environment. And now we'll install vectorBT library for backtesting. And why finance that's required if we want to download data from Yahoo. And that's pretty much everything we need to install, because all the other libraries, modules and packages should be pre-installed with Anaconda. Now that we have installed all we need, we can import that and more to our program. As you can see here, there are some modules that we didn't need to install, but we have them with Anaconda so we can import them. You can also see here that I have 2 DLLs for NumPy. It's because of number, and that's why I don't recommend you using number if you are just starting with programming. Anyway, now we can check what versions of the installed libraries we have. This might be helpful, because sometimes newer or older versions are not compatible. Oh, and for TA library we need to use different way to check the version. Now we can import warnings. It's not necessary, but it might make the output of the program look better. And we have one more thing to install and import, number. As I said before, it's not necessary, but it might speed up the process of optimizing the bot. I didn't install it previously, because at the moment it requires lower version of NumPy, and you might have some problems installing it. But if you know how to deal with different versions of libraries, feel free to install it, either through Conda or pip install. And after you install it you can import it, and unhash, decorate the create signal function. And that's it. Now you have all you need and even more imported to the program. Now we can start connecting to Alpaca. We add the URL for paper trading, connect to the API, and check if it works by printing out the time from the API. Now, we use the same keys to Alpaca for vectorBT settings, so VBT can connect to Alpaca when needed. We set the parameters for downloading data in 1-minute intervals, both for stock and crypto. We set the data limit parameter to none for downloading stock data from Alpaca. And we choose the preferred crypto exchange we want data from, CBSE. We also set the start and end dates for downloading data. Yahoo allows us only to download 7 days of 1-minute data, so we choose the data from last week. Now we create a function that will help us prepare the data for analysis. The function will take 2 arguments, start date and end date. At first we download the data. We use vectorBT to download the data for stock, or Alpaca for downloading the data for crypto. Based on the declared asset type and data source for stock trading, we choose the proper way to downloading and cleaning up the data we get. Now we convert time to time in New York. We choose only the data from that's between declared trading hours, and create 2 more columns with buy list time and sell time. Finally we assign the columns of the data to proper variables, and we return open, high, low, close prices, volume, buy list and sell time, and we can use this function with 1 line of code. We'll do it soon. Before we use this function, here you can see step by step what this function does. So, we start with downloading the data. We download it differently based on declared asset type and data source. Because at the beginning of this tutorial we declared we want to trade Bitcoin. We download the data with Alpaca-API and clean it a little. I won't get into all the details, because this would take too long. But you can try for yourself taking even smaller steps to see why we do what we do. Now we can convert the time in the data frame to New York time. Plot the data, and see how the prices and volume were changing. We choose the data within trading hours. It's because with stocks we might get data from pre and after market, and we don't want to use it during backtesting. We plot the data to see the changes, but with crypto not much changes. Then we create the set of the indexes for buy list time. This will let us create a column with ones for the time we don't want to buy, like couple of minutes before the day ends and couple after it starts. We apply these and create a column with buy list time, and after that we do the same thing with sell time. Finally we create the variables containing the data that we will return with our function. And now we can just check if we do have proper info regarding buy list time in our data frame. And yes, we do. And that's what we did previously in our prepare data function, only without the plotting and showing data. That was for better understanding. I know it was rather fast explanation, but we have so much more to see here. So let's go further. Okay, so now I want to give you another extra explanation. This time regarding technical indicators and candlestick patterns we'll be using in our backtesting and bot indicators from 4 categories. trend, moving average and MACD, momentum, RSI and stochastic, volatility, Bollinger Bands, and volume, MFI. We'll also be using candlestick patterns for buy, sell or both. I will show you here what we use, how we use it, where to find info about it, how to use it in specific strategies. You don't have to watch it, but if you want to learn more about the indicators and patterns we'll be using, you might want to. It's up to you. So here we see step by step what we might use in this bot. We start with the moving average. You should know that there are different ways of calculating MA. And so there are different types of MA, like simple, weighted or exponential. If you want to learn more about moving average, you can find a lot of useful info in the internet about it. You can learn how these different types of MA are calculated and decide which one is better for you. In our bot we'll be using exponential moving average, but here you can see 3 of them. As you can see, calculating MA with TA library requires 1 line of code. So we add here to our data frame SMA, WMA, and 3 EMAs with different time frames, calculated with 28, 14 or 50 previous prices. Now in our data frame we can see that MA based on 50 prices appear as the last one. We can compare the averages calculated with the same windows. As expected, they differ, so now it's up to you to decide which of them you want to use in your future bots. And now we can move to our crossover strategy. You can read about it in the net. For example at Investopedia. In price crossover strategy we check when close prices move over or under the MA, and use that as a signal to do something. It might be our signal to buy or sell. Here you can see these signals. 1, 2, 3. Here we can see that crossing over, and how it can be written in the code with our shifted function we created before. So we have here close price lower than MA in time t. And we have close price higher than MA in time t-1. We code it as shifted close is bigger than shifted MA. So let's add 2 columns to our data frame, close shifted and close MA. And here, in one line we can simply compare our close price at the given time, and close price from a minute before to the MA from a minute before. And that's it. Now we can buy or sell based on these calculations. At first we can plot both of these lines close prices, and MA thanks to vectorBT library with 1 line. And check which logic would be better to buy, when close prices cross over MA, or when close prices cross under MA. And as you can see here, the price crossing over MA might give us better signal to buy, and crossing under might be a signal to sell. And that's it about MA for now. So let's see Antota trend indicator, MACD. If you want to learn more about MACD, you can find interesting info about it at Investopedia, about its formula, how it can be used, is it better or worse than other trend indicators. Now, as with MA, we can simply calculate MACD with TA library with 1 line of code. And we will add to our data frame 3 columns. MACD, MACD signal and difference between MACD and MACD signal. All calculated with the same windows and prices. We can use MACD with different strategies, like to buy when MACD is lower than 0. Or when the MACD signal is lower than MACD. Or when it crosses below the MACD. And we can sell in some other conditions. You can see on the plot how the 2 lines MACD and signal move. And think how you could use these indicators in your bot. Now let's check the momentum indicators, RSI and stochastic. To calculate them we are using momentum module of TA library. And provide the necessary data and parameters. And in just a few seconds we can see RSI, stochastic and stochastic signal in our data frame. Now we can use them to create very simple strategy, like to buy or sell when RSI is lower or higher than some threshold. Because RSI is usually compared to 30 to 70 thresholds. We can see on the plot, generated with VBT, where would we hit these thresholds, and think how best we can incorporate RSI to our bot's strategy. Because as you can see the simple one might not be the best. We can also use stochastic in simple strategies if we want. And here we can see how it looks on the plot, with yet again 30 and 70 thresholds. Now, with all these indicators, we can create much more complicated strategies. Like we can buy when stochastic is lower than a threshold, but only when our moving average is going up in last couple of minutes, hours or days. When we use shifted EMA we can easily check how the MA changes in time. We can also see these changes on the plot, and analyze whether our strategy seems okay, or maybe we could change it to make it better. With use of simple logic symbols and multiplication, we can create a lot of different strategies. Just remember not to overcomplicate things, so at all time you know what your bot should be doing. And you can always create a data frame to see if the outcome of your formula is what you expect it to be. Okay, Now one more thing about using different libraries to calculate technical indicators. Let's take a closer look at RSI. In the internet you can find most common formula for calculating RSI. That might be divided into 2 steps. But you should know that even with this general formula, different libraries might calculate RSI differently. Here you can see what I'm talking about. At first we take some data. And now we get RSI in 3 ways with VBT. The RSI from vectorBT, from TA-lib library and from TA library. And as you can see here, they are not the same. At times they differ a lot. And that can make difference between you buying something on time, too early or too late. So remember to always use the same library for calculating indicators during the backtesting and live trading in order to get the best results. Okay, let's move on to Bollinger Bands now. In TA library they are in the volatility module. We will see here lower and higher bands. That can be our thresholds for buying or selling, or just signaling something in more complex strategies, like that there might be a break in price, or the price might go back to the average, etc. Now let's check the volume indicator. We are using MFI here. You can find more info about it on Investopedia. We calculate it with high-low close prices and volume, and get a single number that some call the volume weighted RSI. MFI is often used as a threshold. People buy stocks when MFI is lower than 10 or 20, and sell when MFI is higher than 80 or 90. But you can adjust these numbers to your needs, or let the bot choose the best parameters for this indicator. And that's all about indicators at the moment. Now we can move to candlestick patterns. So as usual, at first you can read about these patterns in the net. You can see which of them seem to be most promising as signals to buy or sell. And here you can find some of them. And as you can see, with TA-lib library we can find different patterns by simply changing the name of the pattern we are looking for in our code. As the outcome we will see 100 every time we get a signal to buy from the patterns, and -100 every time we get signal to sell. 0 will be the signal to do nothing. And we can use these signals to buy whenever at least one will tell us to buy, or in some other configuration. We can also plot the candlestick chart and see when we got our patterns. And that's it about basic understanding of the indicators, patterns and strategies we might use in our bot. Now let's move to actual backtesting with vectorBT library. During the backtesting, at first we'll create a prototype of our bot, with basic parameters assigned to test if our strategy works at all. Then we'll test the prototype with these basic parameters. Then we'll train the bot, optimize chosen parameters. And after that we'll validate with newer data, not seen before, and then we'll be able to move on to live trading. But at first let's close all the unnecessary websites. And now let's dive into the SuperRi signals function, the main function for backtesting. That will return the signals to buy or sell stocks. This function will be using all the basic info regarding prices, volume, and time to trade. It will also use some parameters, which we'll be optimizing in just a few minutes. At the moment these are the parameters we declared couple of minutes before. The SuperRi signals function will calculate all the aforementioned indicators, RSI, stochastic, stochastic signal, etc. Because we already have TA and TA-lib libraries installed, we can use vectorBT to calculate the indicators with these libraries. To calculate each indicator we simply give the name of an indicator, run it with the necessary data and parameters, get the output of our analysis, and convert it to NumPy array, because that's the type vectorBT requires for further calculations. And we do the same thing with each indicator, and with each candlestick pattern. The main difference between indicators and patterns is that, with candlesticks we are using TA-lib library, while for indicators we were using TA library. After we calculate all these, we can create a super AI signal, with previously created function createSignal, or as I called it, brain of the bot. And the function will return super AI signal from this whole super AI signals function. Now we can declare parameters to optimize that we've already seen before. And now we can create the super AI indicator with vectorBT indicator factory, with all the aforementioned prices, volume, and trading time as input names, and parameters names as parameter names. The indicator will be calculated from the super AI signals function we've created, with all the basic parameters as we've declared them previously. And we can start testing the prototype. At first we prepare our data with the prepare data function we've created before. Then we create trading signals by running our super AI indicator, with all the necessary input and parameters. We declare here param product is true. That will be important in a moment. when we'll be combining different parameters in different configurations. After we run it, we can check whether we got any buy or sell signals. And as you can see, we got some. So now we can declare entries and exits for our bot. That is that our bot should buy when the signal is 1, and sell when the signal is -1. And we can calculate our portfolio from signals with close prices, entries, exits, initial cash, declared is $100,000, take profit and stop loss is declared previously, and no fees for trades. After we create our portfolio, we can check how big would our returns be for the data we prepared. And as you can see, we got almost 0.8% during that time. We can see that on the plot. We can see here all the orders we made to buy and sell. We can see which orders were won. We gained money on them. And which were lost. The returns were lower than 0. We can also see the cumulative returns for the whole week. We can choose to see the worst trades we made and try to understand why they happened. This might help us create better strategy for future. And we can check the stats for the whole period. We can see how much money we get at the end. If we start with $100,000, we can see the benchmark returns. We can see how many trades we made during this time, and think how much would it cost if we declared any fees. We can also see here our win rate 43%. That's not the best, but that's just for starters. Because now, we can improve our strategy. So now we move to training our bot, optimizing the parameters. We'll create trading signals as we did before. But this time we'll use more possibilities for each parameter. We'll use NumPy arrange for this. But we could also use simple lists with possibilities. With arrange it's easier when we want to test more possibilities. Because we can only change the step in each parameter or the range. We can easily test only one possibility for a parameter if we want. We just simply make the step big enough, so only one possibility fits in the range we are testing for the parameter. Now, because we declare param product to be true, we will calculate all the possible combination of the parameters. It means that in here we'll test the strategy with MA window 14. In all possible combinations for other parameters. Then we'll change the MA window to 28. And test it once again with all possible combinations for other parameters. That means that the more parameters, and more different possibilities for each parameter you want to test, the longer it will take. After a while we get the results for our trading signals. Now we can again assign entries and exits to our signals. We can calculate our portfolio and the returns. And see all the stats. The one thing you need to know is that the stats we see here are the averaged stats for all the possible combinations. If you check the returns, you might see all the possible combinations we got. Here, we got 1024 different combinations. Because we used 10 parameters with 2 possibilities, and the rest with only 1. Now, if we want to find out what was the max return, we can do it quite easily. And we can see here that the max returns were more than 6.4%. While the average returns for all combinations were around 1.8%. We can also check max drawdown and Sharpe ratio as our metrics. Now we can decide which combination we want to use in our bot. We can use returns, drawdown or Sharpe ratio, and as you can see here, different combinations are best to get the best results in these metrics. So it's up to you which one you want to use. You can decide about it with simple assignment of the combination you prefer to the variables you'll be using in your bot. We'll stick to the total returns. Because, although they might not be the best, they are the easiest to understand, I think. And now we can once again calculate our trading signals, assign them to entries and exits, calculate our portfolio, and see the returns of this precise combination of parameters. The returns should be the same as the max returns from previous search. We can now see all the stats for this best combination, see how many trades we made, how big the win rate we got, and we can plot all the trades, and maybe think about better strategy. Or validate the one we've created on the newer data not seen before. So let's validate our strategy. Validating in this situation means simply testing the same optimized strategy with completely new data. That is important, because during our optimization step we can easily overfit our strategy to the data. That means that the program might learn the best possible strategy for the given data, but can be terrible with the new data. There are various ways of coping with overfitting and underfitting. And we'll get to that in future tutorials regarding machine learning. But for now we'll just use simple split of data for the one batch of training data. And one of validation data. In our case, the validation data will be from the days following the week we used for optimization. Let us then prepare the new data. Now we can use the data and parameters we've previously chosen as the best and create new trading signals for the new data. We can assign new entries and exits, calculate portfolio, and see the stats of our strategy during validation phase. And as you can see, this time our strategy made us lose money. Now, we can still decide that the strategy is good enough if the benchmark return is even worse. And for the purpose of this tutorial, that's what we'll decide. The strategy is good enough for further testing with live paper trading. So now we can create the plot to see how our strategy was performing. We can check the best or the worst trades. Think if there was much more we could do better. We can analyze it a bit more. And if we are satisfied, we can move to live paper trading. And if we are not, we can modify the strategy, or modify the way we optimize it so not to overfit it. But we'll get to these tips on how to make our strategy better. And even get 100% win rate after we test our bot with live paper trading. So this is the end of backtesting phase. Now we move to live trading phase. Okay, so, yes, we should move to the live trading part of the tutorial. But because this first part lasted more than 30 minutes, after I show you that promised 100% win rate strategy, we'll finish this part of tutorial. And in the second part we'll see live trading with crypto, live trading with stock, more backtesting, ideas on how to improve the bot, and another 100% win rate strategy. But all in time. Now, at first let me fast forward and show you that first 100% win rate strategy. And actually, you might not know it, but I've already shown you that. Only it wasn't completely unhashed. So, let's see it properly. This strategy will use all the aforementioned indicators and candlestick patterns. So we use MA, MACD, RSI, Stochastic, BB, MFI, and 8 candlestick patterns in this strategy. And we will reach 100% win rate. Some say, the holy grail of trading. And of course this strategy, as all strategies, will only be working for a time. Now, this time we will be trading Apple stock with this strategy. And we'll download the data from Alpaca. This might be important if you want to test strategies with more data. Because Yahoo allows us to use without logging only 7 days of 1-minute data. And to use Alpaca for downloading we only need to change data source from Yahoo to Alpaca. We'll use all the basic parameters for our indicators. And here we create our strategy, which in this case, basically, means that we'll be unhashing all the hashed out logics from our create signal function. So, our bot will get a signal to buy when, as previously, the time is right, our fast MA is lower than our slow MA and the same time our RSI is lower than our RSI entry threshold, or last close price is lower than lower Bollinger Band, or last MFI is lower than MFI entry threshold, or last close price is higher than MA, or MACD is lower than 0, or MACD difference is lower than 0, or MACD signal is lower than MACD, or stochastic is lower than stochastic entry threshold, or stochastic signal is lower than stochastic entry threshold, or close price is higher than MA and fast MA is higher than slow MA, or our RSI is lower than RSI entry threshold, and the same time last close price is lower than MA or MACD is lower than 0, or last close price is bigger than last MA, and the same time the close price from a minute before is lower than last MA, or last stochastic is lower than stochastic entry threshold, and the same time last MA is higher than MA from a minute before, and MA from a minute before is higher than MA from 2 minutes before, or RSI is lower than RSI entry threshold and the same time. Okay, I'll let you figure this one on your own, or even if none of the above conditions are met, but at least one candlestick pattern tells us to buy, we get a signal to buy. And as you can see, it is a bit complicated, and there are some redundancies in here, but we'll leave it like this. If you want, you can try to find out how much you could simplify this strategy and still get the same result. But for now, let's move to our selling strategy. Now, we'll get a signal to sell when there is time to sell, or our fast MA is higher than our slow MA, or our RSI is higher than our RSI exit threshold, or last close price is higher than higher Bollinger Band, or MFI is higher than MFI exit threshold, or last close price is lower than MA, or MACD difference is higher than 0, or MACD signal is higher than MACD, or stochastic is higher than stochastic exit threshold, or stochastic signal is higher than stochastic exit threshold, or close price is lower than MA and the same time RSI is higher than RSI exit threshold, or RSI is higher than RSI exit threshold and the same time either close price is lower than MA or MACD is higher than 3, or the condition with shifted, or the conditions with more shifting, or, and here there is one or too much. No wonder, look how many ors are there. But let's finish these ors. So, or any of the candlestick patterns tells us to sell. And this is the strategy. As I said before, do not overcomplicate things, because you might get lost. What was I saying? Anyway, let's prepare the data for backtesting. Now we can test our strategy as before with all the basic parameters and see the final result. And as promised, we get 100% win rate. Hooray! The only problem is that during these couple of days we only had one trade. That means we bought the shares once and sold them once. And we earned $300. That is 0.3%. Is this great? Well, we can create a plot and see our trade on that plot. And there she is, our winning trade. You can answer yourself if you think this 100% win strategy is a great strategy. Or even a okay one. But that's for you to decide. So, the only thing that I should tell you before the end of this part of the tutorial is that the same strategy would perform much worse in longer time. If you want, you can backtest it with more data and see it for yourself. We'll get to that in the second part of the tutorial. But for now remember about overfitting. About the fact that if somebody has long-lasting 100% win rate strategy, that somebody probably won't share it in the internet. Or maybe. And meanwhile that's it. Now you've seen the first of mine 100% win rate trading strategies. I hope you liked it. I'll show you another one. Much less complicated, and lasting much longer, in the second part of this tutorial. Now, if you want to get the code that you've seen in this tutorial, you can download it from my website, superai.pl. With that code you can try testing and optimizing other strategies that you might want to use in your live trading bot. Good luck with your coding, and see you again in the next part of this tutorial. Yours, Super AI.